Hi guys, Alicia here, the newbie crafter. As I told you in my craft room tour, I'm going to be showing you all about my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers. I really love these and I really like the storage option that I have found, and they are really a great marker to use. I'm going to be showing you the pros and the cons of the alcohol markers and why I chose to get these. So let's get started. Well, I chose to get these because I originally wanted to get Copics, but where I live, Copics are literally $8 a marker. So I said, there is no way I am getting Copics. So Copics are kind of like distress inks, because distress inks aren't a dye-based or a pigment-based ink. They are kind of out there on their own, and Copics aren't a watercolor or a alcohol marker. They're, again, out there on their own. So we found these at Marshall's and they were actually cheaper than Amazon.com. I chose to get alcohol markers because where I live, again, I can't really get any type of marker, and I saw these, I decided to. So the two sets that I started out with getting were the 24 set of pastels and, again, the 24 set of the brights. These were $30 each at Marshall's. They were quite a good price. They did have some other sets there. There was the pinks, reds, and purples. I got the pinks and the reds for Christmas this year, but I really like these. I didn't quite have enough to blend yet. There's a total of 168 markers in the Spectrum Noir alcohol markers selection. You do need quite a few of them to actually do some blending projects, but until then, you can use them just like normal coloring markers and not worry about blending. Some of the projects that you can do without worrying about blending are this one right here. I colored this one simply with the markers and I didn't do any blending, and it turned out quite well. The other one that I've done is this frog right here. I colored it in with the greens and the pinks, and it turned out quite well. This is just using the pastels and the brights sets, and I could get some really nice coloring from it. Those are both printouts from online that I got. But one of the downsides that I don't really like about the alcohol markers is the color does not at all represent what it actually looks like on paper well at all. For an example, especially with the GBs, swatch them out. This is GB6 and this is GB6. This is a very bright yellow and that's a gold yellow. They're very different, so I really wanted to swatch them out. So I created myself a swatch book, which has come in very, very handy. So what I did when I created this is I got a binder and I put all of these in page protectors. So I did my alcohol markers, color charts, title page, and then I went through and I did the IGs, which is ice gray, and I wrote out all the IGs. There's a different amount of each, so don't go to 10 for each one. And then I wrote the set that they're from. I used a template online by Spectrum Noir to do this. And then I went through to the green grays, and I did this all the way through my book. I will have the file in the description box below to this printout so that you can print this out too, and you can just add to it as you get the markers. And it's really nice to see exactly what you have, because they're not always where you think that they would look like. So I really do recommend printing this out and just having this with your Spectrum Noir alcohol markers whenever you're coloring with them. Now the other thing with the Spectrum Noirs is when you have a color, it's definitely going to show up as that color. There's no way to really lighten it per se. You can lighten it using the blending pen, but they really don't lighten that much. So watercolor markers would be a better idea for that, because you can mix it with the water and create a lot of different shades. So you might want to get watercolor markers first and see if you like those better. See how you like those and then decide whether to get the alcohol markers or not, because you're very limited with your color selection with the alcohol markers. They're a lot of fun to use. On each one there is a fine tip end to it so that you can get into the finer detail areas. And then on the other end of it, there is a chisel tip for coloring in those larger areas. I've never actually ended up using a chisel tip, but some people do use the chisel tips a lot. I color a lot of smaller things, so there's no need for me to have the chisel tips. But it's still worth having for when you're coloring in the larger areas. They only do blend when you've recently colored them, so when the ink is still wet on the paper. Where with watercolor markers you can reactivate them at any time because you just use water and they're watercolor markers. They're really nice. A lot of people like them. I definitely, now that I have these, would not go out and get Copics. You want to store these on their side so that the ink doesn't all the way go to one end and then you have no ink at the other end. So store these on their side. I got these 2 units from Michael's Arts and Crafts store, and I spent $14.99 on each of them. Of course I used a coupon, but they do work quite well and I really like having them. I have these in here in the order of my swatch book, so I have them going this way. You know, the one other thing I wanted to mention about these is there's a little bit of a rubber coating on them, and on this one they didn't completely do the rubber coating in the one area on mine. So that isn't the best, and I'm not quite happy with that for the amount I paid, but that's only on one of my markers. And on all of my pastels I put a piece of washi tape on them so that I knew that those were pastels, until I got my swatch book. But my swatch book has still come in very handy. So that is how I feel about the Spectrum Noir alcohol markers. I will put the file to the swatching chart that I showed you earlier in the description box below. Please subscribe to my channel to see different things that I've decided to do with these markers, and like this video so others can hear all about the Spectrum Noir alcohol markers. Feel free to ask any questions that you have in the description box below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.